Hey everybody, this is Perch. This video may be of very little interest to fans, but it might answer a couple questions about how licensing works and also some of the damage that's done when you take a publishing approach that actually hurts your licensing. So right now, one of the biggest values or one of the biggest strengths that Marvel and DC have, and they continue to have, is that their characters have massive brand recognition. And as much as people like to get in the weeds about, the Joker being pregnant or Ezra Miller being insane or whatever else is going on with comics at the time, the mass majority of people have no idea these things are happening. Generally speaking, if you go and you survey people a year from now, very few of them are probably going to remember or know or care that the Joker was pregnant in a backup story of issue number 4. And I still maintain that's not a pregnancy, but whatever. Very few people are going to know because it doesn't matter in the bigger sense, in the mass market sense. Now you may say, all right, well, cool then. So no problem. They can do these kinds of wacky things and it doesn't actually ever hurt the brand. So no problem. Well, actually, there is a bit of a problem because it cuts both ways. Yes, it's true. A year from now, people aren't going to really know or remember or care about this backup story. But that's the negative part. But the positive upside, hey, did you know that the Joker did something pretty cool? Is a really threatening villain? Is somebody to be feared? People aren't going to be thinking that either. Meaning, good news, the crazy negative stuff isn't going to be on people's minds, but there isn't going to be any big positive stuff either. And you need that positive stuff because at the end of the day, as much as lots of people complain and yell and scream and or love or argue, whatever, the group of people fighting over where comic is good or bad today is a relatively small group. As in, if you think about the mass market, less than 5%. It's a tiny amount. Where comics got strong in the 70s and the 80s in particular is because they were very, very effective at licensing. Now, you might say, hey, wait a minute, but I'm a comic reader. Oh, I don't care about licensing. I don't care about a Superman logo on a t-shirt or a lunchbox or toys or any of that kind of stuff. And that's fine. But what that does, having those characters out there, not only is it a nice revenue stream for the publisher, that's always good. They get to make money off of licensing, and that's wonderful. But almost more wonderful is the advertising you get out of it. You can't go anywhere without seeing your brand, your logo, your characters all over the place. That's great business. That's great marketing. I mean, in many ways, once you're a big company like the size of a Marvel and DC, you're laughing. You're just things are great because not only are people paying you to use their license, but when they do, you're getting free advertising. I mean, imagine if you're a t-shirt company and you just want to print t-shirts with the Superman logo on it, you have to go pay DC money to do that, to use their logo. You then have to go pay money to get your shirts into stores and advertised and marketed. DC doesn't do any of that. Just you. It's all on you. You take all of the risk, and if the brand is strong enough, you get some of the reward. But DC, in this instance, gets all the reward. That's why licensing is so important. And that's why when you don't have really compelling, good comics, good iconic things going on, the license starts to erode. Now, it's going to take a very long time for a license like Superman or Batman or Spider-Man to erode. There's some signs that that's happening now. The Superman, Batman logo and just general licensing strength is not what it used to be. For Marvel, it's a bit more convoluted than that because even though the comics haven't kept up their end of the deal, the movies largely have. That's why you do see all of the licensed products and the things out there usually utilizing the movie logo and the movie character versions, not the comic versions. It was somewhat heartbreaking to go into a Target and see all these toys out on the shelf there, and they're all MCU versions of characters. I mean, pretty well done. They had a She-Hulk character there that looked just like the She-Hulk from the show, which I gather is probably a little easier given she was some kind of CGI kind of monstrosity of a face, but still, the toy was like a dead ringer. The sad part is, it's like, I would really like, I'd like a classic She-Hulk. I'm not going to get that. That's not coming. But regardless, Marvel has a bit more strength in this area for sure, because the movies have done well. But still, it isn't great if the comics are neither providing the story IP, and increasingly they're not. I mean, the idea of Spider-Man No Way Home, which did make quite a bit of money. I mean, how much of that really was dependent on the comics? I mean, maybe a vague kind of sense of the multiverse, but that was an original story. I don't know. Maybe you could argue that the One More Day bit was in there. I guess. I mean, if you stretch your imagination, sure, but it's not as closely tied to the comics as the movies used to be. And so if you're not really generating the licensable materials, you're not generating the imagery that people are using, you're not generating the stories. What are you doing? Well, in a weird way, you're just kind of an arm of marketing at that point. So you've become like the guy selling T-shirts. There's this weird reverse license thing that's happened where Marvel Comics is up there with kind of the lower tier marketing licensors. That's what they are at the moment. But when you see stuff, when you see these kind of jokey shenanigan type stories, whatever, the hot shot of a story, if the John Kent is bisexual, okay, you have to ask yourself, how does this translate to something that can become a license and become mass market popular? Now, by the way, I want to say at this moment, if you're a creator, if you're a writer, you're an artist, and maybe even to some extent an editor, given how they're paid, this is probably not your concern. I mean, you could make the argument, and you probably should, that the stronger the company, the better likelihood that you're going to keep your job and continue to get pay raises and everything else. But both publishers have gone a long way of basically proving to their creators that their royalty checks and other aspects of the characters and the stories they make, they may or may not get paid for that. If they do, it will be very, very little. Ed Brubaker made the comment that throughout all the stuff that happened with the Winter Soldier and everything in Captain America, he saw very little money, much less than his creator-owned stuff. So with that kind of knowledge out there, writers can be... I can excuse a writer going, you know what, I don't really care if this is mass market popular or not. I'm going to do what I'm going to do, take my check, and leverage it to something I do want to do. I mean, I don't know, it's not being a great employee, but, then again, they're not employees. They're freelancers. So, maybe this is an argument. I made that argument in other videos that you really do need to put some incentive plan in for the creators. If you don't do that, that's going to be a problem. But anyway, it's insane to me that you basically have these things that at one point were strong licenses. Again, in the 70s and the 80s, you saw this peak kind of license form. The 90s, and this is where people and viewers have heard me push back on that era a little bit. It was good for direct market, good for comics, at least for the first half. It was absolutely terrible for the second half. But in terms of mass market licenses, that's where you saw the companies, the publishers, starting to stumble a little bit. And as we went into the 2000s and we went all in on the direct market, it stumbled a lot. Largely because, without the newsstand, suddenly the comics are not in all those other places. That hurt it too, hurt visibility. There's one other factor I'll throw out there for you to consider, and that's that the current publishing strategy of doing little 5-issue miniseries and constantly rebooting the books, that may be good for speculators and for creators, people coming in and buying 10 copies of a book in the hopes that they'll be worth something, or doing variant covers so people will buy the more expensive for their collection. But this is terrible from a brand recognition and license perspective. The little 5 issues and done takes away one of the biggest strengths of comics, and that's perseverance. It's having lots and lots and lots of issues out there. Look, if you're going to gain momentum, you've got to have almost a never-ending stop of comics. Spider-Man got quite strong because it kept going, and then it spun off and had a second series, and then a third series. There were so many Spider-Man comics on the shelves that you couldn't escape this character. It gave them, the expression they use in business, multiple shots on goal. If lots of different story ideas could be tried, lots of different creators could be there. That just gave it more options, more abilities to take those images, license them off, take the character, take the stories, get those out there. It was strong for comics. When you take a story or a character and you cut it into 5 issues. You cut it into this small little bit, or even, and quite frankly, this is the big problem that crowdfunding comics has. If it can't get some momentum and get those comics out faster. Eric July made a lot of money off his comic. He's made one, but if you listen to him, or at least you listen to his intent, we'll see if he does it. But if you listen to his intent, he wants to create more. He wants to create a universe. That means lots of comics. There's a reason why you want to do that. Trying to get more brand recognition, more advertising, more licensing out of just one comic, near impossible. The Common America guys, Tim Lim and that group, you will notice that they are pushing really well on that area. Now they've got a long way to go, of course, to get huge recognition, but those characters, there's a reason why they have those characters all over the place. Why they do the stuff they do at cons, why they keep pushing. Getting that character out there, getting that brand recognition done, it's super, super useful. And so if you're a major publisher like a Marvel and a DC, you have this natural advantage in that you're big, you have lots of history, you have characters with decades of experience. And if you take those characters and you manipulate the look around for them because you're trying to get a headline on, IGN or Kotaku, and then you go ahead and you put out like 2 issues, 3 issues, maybe a 5-issue series, and then you cancel it and you start over again, you're just restarting the clock each time you do that. And it's horribly, horribly damaging to your ability to get that recognition and get that brand out there. You're giving away a key source of your power. In a weird way, Marvel and DC, by doing this, are basically saying, hey, yeah, we're going to go ahead and take our brand and our strength, our natural advantage of being a big company, and we're going to go ahead and level the playing field so that we're equals with Boom and with IDW and Dynamite. That's what we're going to do. We're going to go ahead and we're going to go ahead and play fair, I guess, and give away all of our advantages and be like those guys. That's crazy. The crowdfunded groups that put out like 1 book a year, I mean, that's too slow. If you're trying to build up this kind of momentum of characters, it is fundamentally just too slow. And if you're thinking, how do I speed this up? How do I get more stuff out there? I mean, that's the right idea. And by the way, putting out 1 book, raising a couple $100,000 off that book is great. That's great for you as an individual and great. And that can be your business model. That can be your plan. No problem. But if you want to make the really big money, you're going to have to crack this licensing nut. That's the name of the game here. It's far more of a safe bet to do it this way than to pray that Netflix will give you a series. That's the answer. But a lot of the actions the current companies are taking are doing the opposite of that. They're basically steering away from, quite frankly, the safest and most proven way to make money in this business. Anyway, let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and thanks for listening.